Nyumba yangu imeenda na maji yote na bwana yangu sijui alitoka ameenda wapi. Niko tu na watoto peke yangu. Serikali tafadhali. Niko saidi mbaya kabisa. Vitu yote imeenda na maji ya serikali. Haki nimebaki tu bila kitu. Hakuna hata pale nitaenda na kulalia hata watoto. Vitu yote imeenda na maji ya serikali.
Zako unaweza kutuambia tangu asubuhi mpaka jioni. Na usifikiri hatuzijui. Kwani hazitujui tumeishi wapi?
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a devastating cry from a despondent mother somewhere in the villages because she was stranded. What many did not know that she was only but representing many silent voices who are suffering like she. Almost 20 years down the line, ladies and gentlemen, another disaster, a replica of the same, is waiting for us. Because as politicians prepare for 2027, as political parties prepare for grassroots elections, and they want to strengthen their parties, as the government continues to prepare on how to take 1,000 soldiers to Haiti, there is a disaster waiting for us. This is something that if it's not going to be looked at very carefully, we are staring at a disaster. We have been warned that El Nino is coming, but are we really prepared for it? I'm asking this because we have a government that is reactive instead of being proactive. Whenever such heavy rains come, it comes with devastating effects. Roads are very much impassable. Schools are closed. Children and pupils and students cannot go to school. In some areas like Nyando, parents and the whole village would find a safe refuge in some of the schools if they are at a higher ground. All the crops that are still outside in the field, including those that are in the house, are swept away. Animals, the domestic animals that have been kept, are also swept away, from cows and even hen, and all those are swept away. In some cases, like it happened in Kisii, heavy rains result in landslide, and people die in the process because the loose soil from higher grounds will always fall down, burying people and causing very many deaths. Because it happens when rivers break their banks and break the dikes that should hold them. And the question is, even as the government has given a warning, are they doing enough? As we speak today, we all know that there are places that are prone to flooding. You could talk about Nyando area, Budalangi. When River China breaks in central, you know what happens? Ndakaini Dam, because whenever there is heavy rain, they will always overflow to the extent that they break the river banks. In the city, transport is always stalled because there are places that can never, that are just impassable. Today, I don't know whether I'm the one who has not maybe read the plan that the government has, because this is disaster, and disaster management falls under the Ministry of Interior, that is Kithure Kindiki, and of course special program. I don't know whether we still have the Ministry of Special Program, but that is where this initiative falls. And when you read what they are prepared to do, they say that they will always be looking at things like drought, things like floods and natural disasters. But even if you take drought, they always warn about drought. But when you go to northeastern and places like Baringo, you will see animals dying when rivers have dried. The irony, and a very painful irony in it, is this, ladies and gentlemen. During drought, there are areas where there is total confusion because there is no water at all. Animals lack water to drink. And then when it rains, the water goes to waste, and it is now devastating. It now kills us. So during drought, we are dying. We are dying because we lack water. And there are a lot of fights and altercation between communities when they are fighting for pasture and drinking water. Then when it rains, instead of being proactive enough to know how to catch the water, it is now breaking riverbanks and it is killing us. Governor Nyong'o, wherever he is, and Jared Okello, I think, is the member of parliament of for Nyando. Is there a plan? I'm just using that as an example. Is there a proper plan that they have put in place? Do we have certain money that has been placed so that we are just waiting for it? Because I'm afraid that if we are not careful, then what will happen is that we are going to wait for the floods to come. We want to see people dying, people being swept away, animals being swept away, roads becoming impassable, landslides killing people. And the effect is, when roads are impassable, we cannot move from one place to the other. It is draining us or stagnating us economically, because farmers will not be able to transport their goods from one place to the other. There are farmers who depend on crops, and so if they can't sell them, you know what that means to us. There will be no money and people will continue to suffer. The crops will be spoiled and damaged in the lands and in the shamba, gardens, wherever they are. And this means that farmers will go at a loss. Take, for example, things like cabbage, the vegetables. When there is heavy rain, they will get submerged, even the maize. And that means that we are going at an economic loss. When there are places that are impassable, there are vehicles that will not move from one area to the other. Some people, as we speak, are still paying their loans. And that means that when transport is stalled, they will not be able to pay their loans because vehicles are not moving. You could talk about lives that will be lost. And we are waiting for it to happen so that, you know what we are going to do? Then we run there with relief food. And you will see, like I've seen sometimes, Eliud Owalo is giving free donated food in Nyanza. Not bad. When you give someone a packet of unga, maybe it helps, but for how long? So we are waiting to see them, vacating their homes because the homes have been submerged, and then we give them relief food and we tell them that President Ruto is ready to work with every community. My cry is, are we proactive enough? What is the county government doing? What is the national government doing? Do we have money that is set aside for this? I'm crying out because in the next few weeks, you will be, switching on your TVs or your radios, and the news that comes out there will be a very sad news. Someone has been swept away, mama na mtoto amekufa, mifugo imeenda, and it will be very sad for us. The other question that comes to mind, in a corrupt government such as ours, is the money, if at all there is money that has been set aside to deal with such disaster, is it safe? Because I have sometimes listened with pain to news coming from the ministries that someone has decided to take money that is meant to help in such situations, and they misuse and they get away with it because they will always be protected. Is that money safe? And will it be used? Will it be put to good use? These are some of the questions that we are asking. For Governor Sakaja in Nairobi, have you started a program to open up the trenches and the sewer lines? Because one of the things that happens during such, when we have heavy rains, then we have sewer lines bursting. And I know it goes beyond governor himself, because there are people who went and built on sewer lines and sometimes on river lines, so that they have even divided the way the river flows. Wangari Maathai once told us that nature is very unforgiving. When you divert a river, and you want to build in those riparian lands, it will flood and it will be very devastating. It happened sometimes back when Athi River, broke its bank, and people who had built around that area had the water flowing right inside their homes, with all those sofa sets and expensive interior designs. And that is the question that we're asking. Are we waiting to react? Are we waiting to donate food? Are we waiting for such a thing to happen so that we see Governor Sakaja going to the slums, telling them poorly and giving them free food? This is something that we don't want. The national government should move in very fast. If there are people who should be evacuated, let them do that very fast. If there is something, have we rebuilt the dikes and the riverbanks that were broken? It is very painful for me, because I know that we have a government that will always wait for something to happen, then they come and campaign with it. They take political mileage with it. And this is why I'm saying that as we prepare for 2027, are we also preparing to protect the lives of those who we want to vote for us? It is something that is a disaster in waiting, yet we have a ministry that deals with it. We have programs that have been put in place. We don't want too much talk and stories about this. Can the government come up and tell us how much they are prepared to deal with it? Are there proper plans, tangible, not just theory? And to those who live in such prone areas, let us be very, very careful. Because the other time I even saw people dying in the Nairobi River, because it's bad. Our sewer lines and drainage system must be cleaned. Governor Sakaja, we must clean our drainage system, and even in all the cities, in Kisumu, in Mombasa, Abdul Samad, in the major cities, so that when it comes, at least the flood will be flowing. I don't know whether you are also concerned, but if you are not, just wait for a few weeks. Someone was telling me that we can't even trust our meteorological department because we are not even sure that the El Nino will come. I don't know. If it doesn't, that will be an opportunity for someone to take the money that had been set aside. If it comes, you will see how people are going to suffer, because I'm sure we are not prepared. And that is my take.